At the Tunel Jebel necropolis in Minya, archaeologists are digging 30 feet below the surface at the beginning of 2019, Egypt. And when the team discovers a series of tombs deep in the ground, their efforts pay off. However, there is yet another surprise to come. When the chambers were opened by the archaeologists, they discovered a stunning burial ground for 50 mummies, making their find truly unique. Archaeologists have found 50 millennia-old mummies in a tomb in Egypt on Earth. However, Egypt was not a single nation with a border. Rather, it was divided into Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt, and close to that line of division, her model was once too tall for a major city and provincial capital. However, despite the fact that her model remained after the Romans conquered Egypt, its demise was brought about by the Muslim conquest in the 7th century AD. In any case, in its prime, her mandalas was second just to hoodlums in its lavishness, which makes sense of maybe why archaeologists have since revealed such a great amount from this old metropolitan region. The area is famous for having a large necropolis where Egyptians buried their dead and honored them with monuments and tombs. However, the people who lived in ancient mandalas had an interesting method for moving bodies from the city to the El Jebel grave site. The living, as you can see, floated the deceased down the Nile, rather than transporting them overland. Additionally, as a result of this procedure, some bodies found eternal rest within the grottos of Beni Hassan. However, after the Muslim invasion, the city itself did not receive the same level of care as the residents of her monopolists did for the deceased. However, archaeologists have concentrated their efforts more recently on Tunel Jebel, which has been found to contain a wealth of artifacts and information about life and death, as well as her monopolists. However, in actuality, excavators only began seriously combing through Tunel el Jebel at the beginning of the 20th century. The Institut Français d'Archéologie Orientale led the first exploratory session, which lasted from 1902 to 1903. In 1913, the Deutsche Orient yourself followed, and the team on that dig reportedly struck gold by uncovering a number of Roman tombs. Additionally, a number of tomb houses with painted designs and decor were discovered during the 1913 excavation, at least one of which had 4 floors. An even more significant discovery came, however, 6 years later. During that time, the tomb of Osiris, a high priest of Thoth, an ancient Egyptian deity who controlled the universe and resolved disputes among the gods, was discovered by archaeologists at the site. Following the discovery of Metasurface's tomb in 1919, experts then spent the next 2 years excavating the site and rebuilding the honorary structure. They discovered that the building's outer court had a very distinct Greek style, possibly for Alexander the Great's benefit, who was Egypt's Grecian ruler at the time of construction. However, work at Tunel el Jebel was not finished entirely. Thus, beginning in 1931, excavations at the site continued under Sami Dabra, a professor at Cairo University. After that, Gabros spent his first 9 years at the site studying and excavating the area south of Osiris's tomb. He then descended into a series of underground galleries in the 1940s, where animal burial grounds were ultimately discovered. Experts have hypothesized that animals may have entered human tombs but failed to flee, so it is not uncommon for excavations to uncover animal skeletons. However, other ancient tombs have also been discovered to contain cut or painted remains, suggesting that the animals in question were sacrificed or offered as part of rituals. Work that was done in the 1970s and involved going underground to look at the galleries in Osiris's tomb. The young woman buried there had lived in her monopolists during Roman Emperor Anton's rule of Egypt, which lasted from 138 AD to 161 AD. The tomb and chapel of Isadora, however, is perhaps one of the most intriguing finds that have been discovered to this day at Tunel el Jebel. Additionally, she is said to have been involved in a forbidden relationship during her lifetime. Decent Revere and a trooper from Antonopoulos succumbed to one another. According to the narrative, as a result, the couple decided that they wanted to get married. However, It stated that this plan had one major flaw. I stated that Dora's father would not give his blessing to the lovers. The young couple appeared unfazed despite this. They decided to elope instead, and they crossed the Nile to begin their journey to the altar. Isa. Dora is said to have died in the river before she could get married, which is unfortunate. After that, it is said that her father mummified her body and built a beautiful tomb for her. Much of the tomb still stands at Tumma el-Jebel today, and it is even said that visitors to Ice Lover's alleged resting place can still see parts of her hair, nails, and teeth. However, experts flocked to tomb the tomb and chapel of Isa Dora once more, centuries after its construction. From 2005 forward, earth movers, land assessors, draftsmen, and geophysicists teamed up to plot a guide of the necropolis, a plan for future architectural additions to the location, and areas that had not been excavated are included in this chart. Additionally, a field school that was established in 2012 by Egypt's Minya University and the German University of Hildesheim gives aspiring restorers the opportunity to leave their own mark on the region. Under the direction of the Ministry of Antiquities and a government group established to safeguard Egypt's heritage, excavations at Tumma el-Jebel continue. Therefore, it was only natural that the ministry oversaw the work of another group of Egyptian archaeologists who investigated Tumma el-Jebal's remnants in 2019, and the group, which also collaborated with a number of universities' research center for archaeological studies, discovered something truly amazing. To start with, the specialists dug 30 feet into the ground at the previous necropolis, after which they uncovered 4 separate entombment loads. Additionally, the archaeologists discovered a stunning collection of mummified remains once they entered the tombs. It turned out that the location had been used to inter 50 people, including a dozen children. Furthermore, the mummies had been buried in a variety of ways, according to the archaeologists. For instance, some rest in stone coffins, while others are reproposed in wooden caskets. On the other hand, a few more people had just been left inside the tomb wrapped in linen. However, their meticulous modifications and burials suggested that they had once belonged to very important people, regardless of how the bodies had been interred. Specifically, it has been hypothesized that some of the mummified individuals held high-ranking positions during Egypt's Ptolemaic period, which lasted from 305 BCE to 30 BC. During this time, a Macedonian Greek family ruled Egypt until Rome conquered it. However, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities Secretary General Mostafa Waziri has stated that the individuals buried in the El-Jebel tomb could not be identified. Names written in hieroglyphics have not been found. Also, amazingly, the entombment chamber was viewed as totally flawless. Even more extraordinary thinking about that the Egyptian pharaoh kicked the bucket in 1323 BCE. At last then, the ancient rarities to emerge from the burial place, including Tutankhamun's well-known passing cover, became images of the country's celebrated past. Additionally, they sparked a widespread fascination with Egyptian history. However, a rather sinister theory was also sparked by the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. You have to understand that at the time, newspapers talked about what came to be known as the Curse of the Pharaohs, which said that anyone who entered the area would die too soon. In addition, George Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, who funded the expedition to locate Tutankhamun's burial site, was one of the people who ultimately succumbed to his fate. Herbert duly arrived at the Valley of the Kings just a few days after learning that Carter had discovered an unsealed tomb. However, it appeared that the URL couldn't wait for the official unveiling, which was set for November 29, 1922. Instead, prior to that date, Herbert, his assistant, and Lady Evelyn, his daughter, snuck into the tomb on multiple occasions. The excavation's financier then passed away on April 5, 1923, 5 months after those visits. Many people attributed his untimely death to the tomb's curse of the pharaohs. Having said that, toxic fungi had taken root inside Tutankhamun's tomb, and it was thought that this had killed the URL, so Herbert's death could have been more straightforward. However, A medical examiner finally revealed the truth after much speculation. Truly, Herbert had really died because of pneumonia that had advanced into a skin and tissue contamination. Furthermore, Herbert had suffered from lung infections on a regular basis, to the point where bronchitis could have killed him. In the end, a study also looked at the other members of the 1922 excavation team to see if any of them had died too soon after entering the tomb. In addition, it was discovered at the time of the survey that 8 of the 58 people involved on that fateful day had passed away within a period of 12 years of the tomb's opening. Interestingly, Lady Evelyn, despite her father's illicit visits to the tomb, lived until 1980. However, even with that theory, numerous theories regarding Tutankhamun's tomb remained. Some people, for instance, were of the opinion that the space contained secret passageways and rooms that had not yet been revealed. In contrast, in 2018, researchers from the Polytechnic University of Turin in Italy dispelled rumors regarding the secret chambers by focusing on the brown specks that had spread across the tomb walls. These specks were thought to be the markings of deadly fungi. They stated that their research did not reveal the existence of such spaces, and the following year, the conservators of the tombs shared similar findings regarding the fungi growing on the walls. In response, it was discovered that the mysterious growths that had spread throughout the burial ground were actually microbes. Despite the fact that the organisms had turned brown and appeared threatening to some, the experts explained that there was no risk of the man actually growing any further. Since Carter first opened the tomb's door, the pigmented microbes had not moved or spread to new areas, and the conservators insisted that they would have to remain where they were. Eliminating the splotches would harm the extremely valuable craftsmanship inside Tutankhamun's last resting place. You see, normally, the preservation group really want to obliterate the burial chamber, not least since they finished a long-term rebuilding position there in 2019. By conservationists and archaeologists, these sites will be available to future generations. According to the Daily Mirror, conservation and preservation are crucial for the future of this heritage and great civilization, as Egyptologist Zahi Howe was set in January 2019. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.